There's a quiet power in small steps, a strength most people overlook because they're searching for a miracle, a sudden transformation, an overnight change. But the truth is, mastery never comes in a single moment. It's born in the silence between effort and patience, in the discipline to take one small step every single day. Subscribe if you walk this path too. There's a word in Japan that captures this truth perfectly: Kaizen. It means continuous improvement, not a leap, not a burst of motivation, but an unwavering commitment to move forward, even if only by a fraction. The philosophy of Kaizen teaches that the smallest positive change, repeated over time, destroys bad habits from their roots. It's not about perfection. It's about alignment. With your purpose, your discipline, your peace, imagine a stone dropped into still water. The first ripple seems small, almost meaningless, but as it expands, it touches the edges of the entire pond. Kaizen is that ripple. Each choice, each breath, each small act of awareness, they expand outward, reshaping the landscape of your life. In the West, we're taught to chase intensity, to burn bright, even if it means burning out. But the Japanese understood something deeper. Consistency beats intensity. The samurai knew this truth well. Their mastery wasn't forged through bursts of effort, but through quiet daily practice. 1,000 cuts with the sword until motion became meditation, until discipline became art. When you're trapped in a bad habit, procrastination, distraction, self-doubt, the mind often demands instant change. I'll quit today. I'll change everything starting now. But that mindset itself becomes the barrier, because when perfection fails, the mind collapses into guilt. The habit tightens its grip. Kaizen offers another path, one of patience and persistence. Instead of fighting the entire mountain, you move one pebble each day. There's a story of a man who visited a Zen master, complaining that he could not stop smoking. "I have tried," he said. "I have failed many times." The master smiled gently. "Then today," he said, "do not stop smoking. Just notice it. Each time you reach for a cigarette, be aware. Feel the movement of your hand. Feel the breath you take. Do not change, only notice." The man was confused, but he obeyed. Days passed, and with each moment of awareness, something subtle shifted. The habit, once automatic, began to lose its power. What changed? Not the act itself, but the consciousness behind it. That is Kaizen, awareness in motion. Kaizen is not merely about doing less. It's about being more present in what you do. It dissolves the illusion that massive change requires massive effort. It says start small but never stop. Because progress that feels effortless is progress that lasts. Think of a single drop of water falling on stone. It seems weak, powerless, yet over years it carves through rock, not through force but through consistency. Your bad habits are that rock. Your small daily improvements are the water. You do not need to conquer your weakness in one grand act. You simply need to persist long enough for the water to shape the stone. There is something deeply calming about this. It removes the panic of perfection. It reminds you that you don't need to become the person you wish to be overnight. You only need to move toward them, today in the smallest possible way. Let's take an example. Suppose you wish to become disciplined, to wake early, to train, to work with focus. Most people begin with fire. They wake at 5 a.m., run for an hour, meditate, read, and push their limits. For a few days, they feel unstoppable. But soon the flame flickers. The mind rebels, the body resists, and the routine collapses. Kaizen teaches a different rhythm. It says wake 1 minute earlier, just 1, then 2, then 5. You do not shock the system, you guide it. You earn your transformation breath by breath. The power of Kaizen lies in humility, the humility to begin small. To admit that great change grows from small roots. In a world addicted to speed, Kaizen whispers, slow down. In a culture obsessed with goals, it reminds us, the path itself is the practice. There's a phrase in Zen, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The lesson is clear. The action may remain the same, but the awareness transforms everything. That's the heart of Kaizen. You don't need to do something extraordinary. You only need to do the ordinary things with extraordinary presence. Now, let's talk about the psychology behind it. Modern science agrees with what the ancient masters already knew. The human brain thrives on small wins. Every tiny success, no matter how insignificant it seems, releases dopamine, the neurochemical of motivation. Each step forward reinforces the path. The brain begins to crave progress, not perfection. That's how you rewire your habits, not through punishment, but through gentle momentum. If you've ever felt stuck, overwhelmed, or trapped by your own patterns, remember this. Kaizen doesn't demand that you be fearless. It only asks that you take one more step. The warrior who survives the storm is not the one who moves the fastest, but the one who keeps moving, even when the wind howls. There's an elegance in this philosophy. It mirrors nature itself. No flower blooms overnight. No tree grows in a day. But each day, unseen beneath the soil, roots deepen. Growth happens quietly, invisibly, until one morning the world sees what patience has built. Your discipline is the same. Every small act of progress, even the unseen ones, shapes who you become. Bad habits thrive in darkness, in the mind's automatic patterns. Kaizen brings light to those patterns. It slows them down. When you bring awareness to what was once unconscious, the habit begins to dissolve. You no longer act out of impulse. You act out of choice. That's real freedom. A samurai once said, "We are what we repeatedly do." Excellence is not an act, but a habit. To practice Kaizen is to recognize that every moment you're shaping your blade, the blade of your character, your focus, your life. Even when no one sees it, your quiet work matters. Because true warriors do not train for applause. They train for alignment. So if there's a bad habit you wish to break, begin here. Begin now. Not with a grand declaration, but with a whisper. Change one tiny thing. Replace one action. Pause for one mindful breath before you react. That's Kaizen. That's how mastery begins, not with thunder but with silence. When the samurai trained, they repeated the same motion thousands of times, not to impress anyone, but to perfect their awareness. Kaizen is the same. You repeat the motion of improvement until it becomes your nature. The change doesn't happen in the action. It happens in the awareness that shapes the action. In this way, Kaizen is more than a habit system. It's a spiritual discipline, a way to live. It teaches that progress is not a destination, but a way of walking. You don't climb the mountain to conquer it. You climb it to understand yourself. The most powerful transformations often begin in silence. There is no applause, no audience, no lightning bolt of motivation. Just you and the quiet decision to begin again. Every morning, every choice, every breath, a new beginning shaped not by force but by intention. This is the rhythm of Kaizen. The modern world tells us that transformation must be loud, that to change you must break yourself apart, rebuild, and emerge as someone new. But the Japanese understood something deeper. You do not need to destroy yourself to evolve. You only need to return to yourself again and again, until your actions align with your truth. Kaizen is the art of gentle revolution, steady, unhurried, unstoppable. When you walk this path, you begin to notice how much of your life is ruled by the unconscious. Small actions repeated without thought. Emotions that rise and vanish like waves. Words spoken before awareness can catch them. Habits live there, in that half-light between choice and impulse. The purpose of Kaizen is to illuminate it, not to fight but to see. Because once you see clearly, the habit loses its power. The warrior's path is not about battle, it is about clarity. The samurai polished their swords every day, not merely to maintain them, but to reflect upon themselves. Each stroke was a meditation, the blade a mirror. In the same way, Kaizen teaches us to polish our actions, to refine, to simplify, to bring each movement closer to awareness. Breaking a bad habit is not about suppression. It's about substitution, replacing the unconscious with the conscious. You do not fight the darkness. You light a candle. When you apply Kaizen, you don't wage war on yourself. You build trust with yourself. You show your mind that change doesn't have to hurt. It can flow. There's a story from a Japanese craftsman who spent 40 years perfecting the art of making bamboo flutes. When asked how he maintained such focus, he said, "I don't aim to make a perfect flute. I aim to make this one better than yesterday's." That is the spirit of Kaizen. You don't need perfection. You need progress. You need movement, however slight, toward harmony. The great paradox of mastery is this: the higher your level of skill or awareness, the more attention you give to the smallest details. A beginner swings the sword broadly. The master corrects the angle of his wrist by 1 degree. A beginner meditates for an hour to find peace. The master finds peace in one mindful breath. If you want to break free from your patterns, stop focusing on how far you have to go. Focus on how close you can come. Today it was to being just 1% better. It seems like nothing. But imagine improving by just 1% each day. In a year, you wouldn't be the same person. You wouldn't even think the same way. The power of Kaizen is exponential. Small steps compound. And when they do, they create momentum. The invisible energy that makes new habits feel natural. That's why you must start small. Because the smaller the step, the less resistance the mind creates. The brain accepts it. The body adapts. And soon what was once impossible becomes effortless. Psychology calls this the progress principle. Each small win releases energy. It rewires your brain to seek more of the same. But Kaizen turns that science into art. It reminds us that progress without peace is empty. You're not just changing what you do. You're changing how you are while you do it. Think of someone trying to overcome procrastination. They might tell themselves, "Tomorrow I'll work for 3 hours straight." But tomorrow arrives and the mind rebels. The mountain feels too high. Instead, Kaizen says, work for 2 minutes. Just start. Often those 2 minutes become 10, then 20, then hours. Because action once started carries its own rhythm. The hardest part of any discipline is the beginning. The first swing of the sword, the first word on the page, the first step toward the mat. Once movement begins, energy flows. The samurai knew this. That's why their training emphasized ritual. Small, consistent acts that anchored their day. Tying the obi around their waist, aligning the blade, bowing before practice. These weren't mere gestures. They were triggers for focus. They told the mind, it's time to be present. You can do the same in your life. Before you begin your work, light a candle. Before you train, breathe deeply once. Before you reach for your phone, pause for one heartbeat. These rituals anchor your mind to awareness. They turn habit into discipline. Kaizen teaches that awareness is more powerful than willpower. Willpower burns out. Awareness endures. When you're aware, you can catch the impulse before it becomes action. You can see the urge rise like a wave and choose not to ride it. That is mastery. In Zen, they say, when walking, walk. When eating, eat. Simple but profound. Most people, when walking, are already thinking about where they're going. When eating, they're already lost in tomorrow's worries. But the Kaizen mindset is anchored in now, in doing one thing completely. Because when you give yourself fully to one act, even the smallest, it transforms you. Breaking bad habits isn't about resistance. It's about replacement. If you want to stop wasting time on distractions, don't just tell yourself, I won't scroll. Replace the scroll with something meaningful. One page of a book, one breath of silence, one small task that feeds your growth. Nature abhors a vacuum. So does the mind. You must fill the space once occupied by old habits with purpose. There's a reason Japanese philosophy emphasizes simplicity. Wabi-sabi, the beauty of imperfection. Kaizen aligns with this. You don't need your change to be flawless. You need it to be real. The perfection lies not in the outcome, but in the intention, in showing up each day with quiet resolve. When you start applying Kaizen, something remarkable happens. The noise in your mind begins to fade. You stop obsessing over failure and start listening to rhythm, the slow, deliberate beat of your own progress. You stop asking, how far do I have to go? And start asking, what's the next step? That shift changes everything. The Japanese word Kaizen itself was popularized after World War II, a philosophy that rebuilt a nation from ruins, one improvement at a time. Entire industries adopted it, but its roots go deeper than business. Its roots lie in the human spirit, the will to grow even after loss, the belief that no matter how broken something seems, it can be restored piece by piece. You can rebuild your habits the same way. You see, Kaizen is not just about efficiency. It's about compassion for yourself. It's a recognition that you don't need to fight yourself to grow. You need to care for yourself enough to change slowly. Guilt, shame, and self-punishment may push you forward for a moment, but they never last. Compassion and consistency do. In the dojo, a student once asked his master, how long will it take me to master the sword? The master replied, 10 years. The student frowned. But if I train twice as hard every day? The master smiled softly. Then 20 years. The student was confused. Why longer? The master replied, "Because you are focused on speed, not presence. This is the essence of Kaizen. When you rush, you miss the lesson. When you slow down, the lesson reveals itself. Change made in patience lasts because it grows from understanding, not force." And so when you practice Kaizen, when you decide to take that one step today, do it with full awareness. Don't measure how much it changes your life today. Simply trust that it will, because the path of Kaizen is not about reaching an end. It's about walking the path so well that each step becomes its own reward. The mind resists this at first. It wants results. It wants proof. But life doesn't work on demand. The seed doesn't sprout because you shout at it to grow. It grows because you water it, because you trust the process. Kaizen is that watering, gentle, steady, patient. Each time you fail and start again, you practice Kaizen. Each time you choose awareness over impulse, you practice Kaizen. Each time you show up, even imperfectly, as you practice Kaizen. And one day, without realizing when, you'll look back and see how far you've come. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the Zen Warrior. Be calm, be strong, be present. Change is not just about doing different things, it's about becoming someone different. But here's the secret few understand. You don't change who you are through willpower alone. You change by aligning what you do with who you wish to become. Kaizen makes this transformation possible because it bridges the gap between action and identity, between effort and essence. When you take one small step every day, you're not just changing your habits, you're sculpting your sense of self. Every small victory, every tiny act of discipline sends a message to your subconscious. This is who I am now. Slowly, quietly, the story you tell yourself begins to shift. You stop being the person trying to change and start becoming the person who does. In Zen, there's a saying, the way a person does one thing is the way they do everything. When you bring care and awareness to even the smallest task, tying your shoes, making your tea, sitting in stillness, you bring that same awareness into every part of life. Kaizen turns ordinary moments into sacred ones. It turns repetition into ritual. The samurai lived by this principle. Every movement, drawing the sword, bowing, breathing, carried intention. Even polishing their armor was an act of mindfulness. They knew that discipline wasn't about rigidity. It was about harmony. Every gesture reflected their inner state. When you live with that kind of presence, bad habits can't survive, because bad habits thrive in unconsciousness, and Kaizen keeps you awake. Imagine for a moment that your life is a garden. Your habits are the plants. Some feed you, others choke your growth. Most people, when they realize their garden is overgrown, try to burn it down overnight. They rip at the roots, exhausted and angry, only to find the weeds grow back. But the Kaizen gardener takes a different approach. He tends to one patch at a time. He waters what he wishes to grow, pulls one weed a day and patiently transforms the soil. Over time, the wild garden becomes peaceful again, not through destruction, but through care. That is how you transform your identity. Through care. Kaizen is not a philosophy of war. It's a philosophy of peace with the self. It asks you to stop fighting who you are and start guiding who you are becoming. The science of habit backs this ancient wisdom. Neurologically, habits are built in loops. Cue, routine, reward. The mind craves efficiency, so it repeats what feels easy or comforting. To change a habit, you don't destroy the loop. You reshape it. Kaizen gives you the leverage to do this, one small adjustment at a time. Instead of breaking yourself to fit a new pattern, you allow the new pattern to grow within you. Naturally, let's say you struggle with distraction, constantly pulled by your phone, your thoughts, your impulses. Instead of banning all distractions and declaring war on your attention, practice Kaizen. Begin with 1 minute of pure focus, just one. Train your mind to stay with a single task. When that becomes comfortable, expand it. So over time, you'll notice something remarkable. Your focus strengthens, your awareness deepens, your mind becomes quiet. What once felt impossible becomes effortless, because your identity has changed from someone who's distracted to someone who's focused. Identity is the root. Habit is the branch. When you nourish the root, the branch changes by itself. That is the unseen power of Kaizen. In martial arts, there's a stage called Mushin, no mind. It's the state where the warrior moves without hesitation, without thought. Every action flows naturally, guided by pure awareness. You don't plan. You don't force. You simply act, perfectly aligned with the moment. Kaizen leads to this. When you refine your actions daily, one by one, they eventually require no effort. Discipline becomes nature. The modern world misunderstands discipline. It imagines it as harshness, as a battle against weakness. But true discipline, as the samurai knew, is gentle. It's not about punishing yourself. It's about honoring yourself. To live with discipline is to live with respect for your own potential. Kaizen is that respect made visible. The daily act of saying, I am worth the effort to grow. There's a quiet dignity in people who live this way. You can feel it in them. A calm steadiness, a confidence that doesn't shout. They don't need to prove their strength. It emanates naturally, because their power comes not from dominance, but from consistency. That is the energy of a Zen warrior, unhurried, unshakable, unbroken. To practice Kaizen is to train this energy. Every morning you rise with intention, every choice you make with awareness, every time you fail and start again, you're training your spirit. Slowly the noise of the world fades. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop craving results. You begin to find joy in the process itself. That's when transformation becomes inevitable, because you're no longer forcing change. You're embodying it. Think about the mountain again. From afar it looks immovable, eternal. But stand close and you'll see it's made of dust and stone. Millions of small particles shaped by time. That's how Kaizen works. The mountain of mastery isn't climbed in a day. It's built grain by grain. One of the greatest misunderstandings about breaking habits is thinking that failure means starting over. But in Kaizen, failure is part of the rhythm. Falling is not the opposite of progress. It is progress when you rise with awareness. Each mistake is a teacher. Each setback, a sharpening of the blade. The warrior doesn't fear failure. He studies it. He understands that the path to mastery isn't a straight line. It's a spiral, always returning to the same lessons at deeper levels. If you can learn to view your setbacks through the eyes of Kaizen, you'll never quit again. Because quitting only happens when you expect perfection. Kaizen removes that illusion. It replaces it with grace, the understanding that small progress, even after failure, still counts. Always. In Japan, there's a practice called kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold. Instead of hiding the cracks, the artist fills them with beauty. The brokenness becomes the art. The flaw becomes the feature. Kaizen works the same way with your habits and your heart. It doesn't hide your past mistakes. It turns them into wisdom. Each time you fall and rise, you add gold to your soul. That's why the Kaizen path feels peaceful, even in struggle. Because it teaches you that nothing is wasted. Not your failures, not your fears, not your flaws. Everything becomes part of your growth. When you truly understand this, your relationship with yourself changes. You stop demanding perfection and start seeking alignment. You stop trying to fix yourself and begin to honor yourself. The bad habits begin to fade, not because you fought them, but because you've outgrown them. You evolve quietly, naturally, inevitably. And one morning, you'll wake up and realize something has changed. The old impulses don't pull you like they used to. The distractions feel dull. The habits that once controlled you no longer define you. You've crossed an invisible line, the threshold between resistance and flow. That's the gift of Kaizen. You won't even know the exact moment it happened. You'll just become. And in that becoming, you'll find peace. Because at its heart, Kaizen isn't just a system of improvement. It's a path to stillness. It reminds you that growth and calm are not opposites. They are partners. Each small step you take toward mastery brings you deeper into presence. Each quiet act of discipline brings you closer to yourself. That is the true victory. Not breaking the habit, but becoming the kind of person who no longer needs to. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the Zen Warrior. Be calm, be strong, be present. There comes a point on every path of self-mastery when the struggle fades and what remains is silence. A silence not of emptiness, but of presence. This is where Kaizen leads, not merely to improvement, but to awakening. What begins as the discipline of small steps becomes the art of living fully. When you practice Kaizen long enough, something changes inside you. You begin to realize that the goal was never just to break a habit or reach a destination. The real purpose was to become awake to your own life, to every breath, every movement, every moment that once passed unnoticed. That awareness is freedom. In the beginning, Kaizen feels like effort. You remind yourself daily. You struggle to stay consistent, you resist old impulses. But over time, effort transforms into ease. What once required willpower becomes instinct. The daily practice becomes as natural as breathing. That is when Kaizen transcends habit. It becomes harmony. The Zen masters taught that enlightenment is not something distant or dramatic. It is found in the smallest, most ordinary acts, sweeping the floor, pouring tea, folding robes. When performed with full attention, even the simplest act reveals truth. Kaizen is the bridge to that state. It teaches you to live each moment as a chance to refine your spirit, to polish your awareness, to honor the sacred in the simple. In this stillness, bad habits no longer hold power, not because they've been defeated, but because they no longer belong to who you are. You've risen above their vibration. The person you've become simply doesn't act that way anymore. Like an old shell shed by a snake, your former patterns fall away naturally, silently. This is the spiritual essence of Kaizen. Transformation without force, evolution without violence. You become strong not by conquering but by understanding. You change not by rejecting yourself, but by returning to yourself. Think of the river flowing through the valley. It doesn't rush to carve the mountain. It simply flows day after day, patient, unwavering. And in time, the stone yields. That's how Kaizen works within you. A quiet persistence that reshapes everything it touches. The warrior who lives by this way no longer seeks victory in the external world. His battle is inward, against distraction, ego, fear, doubt. And through Kaizen, he learns that even these are not enemies, but teachers. Each weakness shows him where to apply his awareness. Each flaw becomes a doorway to strength. In the dojo of life, every moment is practice. Every failure, every challenge, every success, all part of the same training. When you live with the Kaizen spirit, you no longer measure your worth by results. You measure it by presence. Did you meet the day with awareness? Did you move with intention? Did you give your full self to what you were doing? If so, then you've already succeeded. One of the great Zen poets once wrote, "Sitting quietly doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows by itself." That's the final stage of Kaizen. You stop forcing growth. You simply create the right conditions. Awareness, patience, compassion, and growth happens by itself. The world outside you becomes chaotic, but inside there is stillness. Because you've learned that peace isn't the absence of struggle, it's the presence of understanding. That understanding gives you unshakable strength. And when you finally look back, you'll see that every small effort, every tiny act of patience, every moment of mindfulness was never just a step forward. It was a step inward, toward the center of yourself. This is what the samurai meant when they spoke of the way. The Bushido, Kendo, Aikido, all paths that end not in victory, but in balance. The outer motion mirrors the inner stillness. The fight disappears. What remains is flow. Kaizen is the way of gentle transformation, the way of becoming without force, the way of mastery through patience. It teaches that your life is not a race to the end. It is a continuous unfolding. Each moment is a chance to refine your spirit, to embody excellence, to return to calm strength. And so when you rise tomorrow, do not chase perfection. Do not curse your mistakes. Simply take one step. Breathe deeply. Honor the process. The person you wish to become is already within you. Kaizen is the act of uncovering them layer by layer, moment by moment. Your habits are not your enemy. They are the messages of your past. But you are not your past. You are the awareness that can shape the future. One breath, one step, one quiet act of improvement at a time. If you can live this way, steadily, humbly, with presence, then you will understand what the ancient masters meant by true mastery. It's not about control. It's about connection. With your mind, your body, your purpose, your peace. That's what Kaizen really offers. Not just the power to break bad habits, but the wisdom to live in harmony with yourself. Because when you move with awareness, even the smallest step becomes sacred. And when you live in that state, calm, disciplined, awake, every moment becomes a meditation. Every act becomes art. That is the way of Kaizen. That is the way of the Zen Warrior. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to the Zen Warrior. Be calm, be strong, be present,